What's going on, YouTube? Today we're doing something I haven't done in a long time, which is just a sit-down commentary. A video where I'm just sitting down to talk. Normally when I make a video, I always say to myself, the video has to have a purpose or a reason for people to click or want to watch it. And if there's not, then what's the point of the video? And this video doesn't really have that sort of thing going forward. What this is, though, is a kind of a little bit of an update. I just wanted to talk. I wanted to discuss Dead of the Night and the unique position it exists in my world, as well as the current state of the community and the current state of my channel, as well as what's going to become of my content in the future. So I guess we'll first start with Dead of the Night. Dead of the Night occupies a really interesting position in my world. It's the first Treyarch map that I haven't played on release since Shangri-La. We have to go all the way back to 2011 to find the last Treyarch map that I didn't play day one. Now, I remember when I first got Call of Duty back in, I guess it must have been December of 2010. I didn't get Ascension because I didn't really know that DLC was a thing, and then Call of the Dead, I think I got it a little bit after it had released, something like that, and then Shangri-La, I was on board, and I was ready to purchase every subsequent DLC. I bought Shangri-La day one. I remember Moon, my Black Ops disc broke, and I went to GameStop so I could play it that day. Die Rise, I was so upset that I couldn't stay home from school to play Die Rise. Mob of the Dead, I remember I finally was able to stay home and play that map, and that was a blast. And I've been playing every map on release ever since. Dead of the Night, though, I waited a whole week to play. And part of that was a number of reasons. The biggest factors were finals and the fact that I was traveling home for break. I mean, they dropped the map literally in the middle of finals week, and I had to deal with finals all throughout the week, and then at the end of the week I was traveling home from school because it was break. So there just was no time to play the map, but I also didn't have as much of an interest in playing the map. Like, there wasn't a nagging sensation that, oh man, everybody else is playing this map, I wish I could be playing this map. That sensation wasn't there, and this was an odd feeling. I mean, I've skipped DLC before. I skipped a World of War II DLC, but that was because I was traveling and out of the country. I skipped an IW DLC, and that was because I was too bogged down with stuff at school. This map, though, I skipped because, one, I was busy, but two, I also didn't feel that nagging sensation to play. And I mean, regardless of how strong that nagging sensation was, I wouldn't have been able to play it just because I didn't have time, but this was a new feeling. Now, what are my reactions to the map? I've since played it, and it's good. I like what they're doing so far with the story. I mean, I said this on Zombros, but the ending, while the animation does feel weird, it feels like an adventure, and I like the ideas they're playing with right now. I think we're off to a good start. I don't know if the map has that same allure, the same sort of, I don't know if the story has the same allure as, say, the Ether story. I don't know if it ever will, only time will tell. But I think they are playing with some interesting stuff that makes for good storytelling. The map as well is pretty well polished. I mean, as far as I know, there are no major crashes, which is kind of a funny thing to think that that is the standard. I mean, back in the day, everybody talked about how Die Rise was unplayable because sometimes the perk machines wouldn't appear. They were there in the map, but you just couldn't see them, and then every so often their textures would load in. At that point, the map was unplayable. And then in Black Ops 4, we get maps that are literally unplayable. You can't beat the Easter egg without it crashing, or you can't even get to round 150 on Classified without the game crashing, thus you'd never reach the ending. So now we get a map, it's like, okay, the map doesn't crash. This is a solid, stable map. It's kind of weird how that has changed, and I think over time, as the game becomes more stable, the standard will move back again to its normal position, but now the standard is at an all-time low. In terms of the map things I don't like, I'm a little annoyed by the werewolf. I feel like him spawning every round gets kind of annoying. I also really don't like these vampire guys. I feel like once you get like a pack-a-punch weapon or a decent gun, they're pretty easy to take care of, but in the early rounds, they're just a pain in the butt, and I feel like they usually cause 1 to 2 extra downs in every game that I play just because, I don't know, something about them is frustrating. I'm not a fan of these little vampire guys, but maybe there's a better way to deal with them that I don't realize. Also, while this map is good and I think it plays well, it definitely is no Der Eisendrache. And I said this before, but I think to revive the community, you kind of needed a map like DE. DE was one of the greatest maps that Treyarch had ever created, and it was perfect, and you needed to basically create another perfect map in order to regain the trust of the community. It wouldn't take just a good map, it would take a great map. And this map isn't a great map. It's a good map, but it's not a great map. And that's a little unfortunate. I think it's maybe not what Treyarch needed. I think they definitely would have needed to go with a brand new map based on the Aether story. I think the Chaos story was a poor choice for your first map. I know you want to push this new story because the story is the future. But I think in order to regain the community's trust, it would have been better to go with an all-new Chaos, an all-new Aether story. Over time, though, I think if Treyarch keeps releasing solid maps like this, they will slowly regain the trust of the community. However, that becomes problematic for Black Ops 4 because if it takes you 4 DLC to bring back the community, well, by that point your season is over and there are no more maps. The next Call of Duty's coming out. It's a little too late. Hopefully that's not the case, though, and hopefully they can knock it out of the park with DLC 2 and bring back the community. And speaking of the community right now, I think, is probably in the worst shape it's ever been, especially when you consider it's 2 months after the launch of a map. I mean, we've had dead periods where things are slow and nobody's talking. It seems like everybody's jumping over to the next new game, but now it just feels like people have apathy for this game, which I would argue is worse than anything we could have had before. It's almost as if people don't care anymore. They've given up on Treyarch. And why is this the case? I know a lot of people owe it to the crashing that the game has experienced, and I think the crashes play a smaller role than people think in the perception of the game. One thing you gotta understand is that the people who are experiencing the crashes are the hardcore players. I personally have never experienced a crash, and part of that is because I don't play to super high rounds and I don't get too deep into the Easter eggs, and that's part of it. But I think most players are even more casual than me. I mean, I play the game a lot, I just don't play the Easter eggs that much, so I don't experience that many crashes. I think most players don't even realize that the game has a bad stability problem. It's just the hardcore players. And I know what you're thinking. You're probably watching this video being like, John, everybody in the comments is saying it crashed. Well, the people who are watching these videos are also the hardcore players and the people more likely to experience the crashes. So there plays into itself a little bit. And I think there's something to be said that if you're pissing off your hardcore community, then that is your basis, and if your basis dies, then the rest of the community will fall apart too. I get that too. I think a little bit, though, might be zombie fatigue, especially with the fact that Treyarch threw 4 maps at us at once. It may have been a little too much, where we kind of burnt ourselves out on all these maps within the first month, and then at month 2 it was like, oh shit, now what? And like, if we had 1 map or 2 maps, I think we would have done just as well as if we had had 4 maps. And then if those 2 maps, so if we had 2 maps come out on launch and then 2 maps a month later, I think the community would have preferred that a whole lot better, and it also, I think, would have given Treyarch more time to improve the stability. Not to mention that we also have had zombies for 5 years straight now, something like that. And people might just be getting tired of the basic zombies game mode. One thing I'll say for sure, though, is that the zombies community is definitely more volatile than ever. I mean, go on Reddit last week and it was an absolute nightmare. And this is coming from somebody that normally supports the Reddit. This begs the question, though, is this the beginning of the end of the community? Will Black Ops 4 be kind of our last hurrah? I don't know if that's the case. Part of me feels like this is a self-fulfilling prophecy where people say the community is dying, so then the community dies, which then causes more people to say the community is dying, and it's an endless feedback loop. It's almost a little bit of confirmation bias here. Hopefully, though, the community can survive this. I think it's going to take a series of strong maps from Treyarch to really bring it back to where it once was. But I remember talking to Reed and Quinn about the zombies community before Black Ops 4, talking about how great it's going to be. It'll be like a renaissance, and it definitely isn't a renaissance right now. I feel like nowadays people make more videos complaining about Treyarch and more videos complaining about Black Ops 4 than they do actual content about the game. And it's disappointing. I remember I said to Reed the other day, I said, I'm tired of coming on Zombies every week and just being negative and shitting on the game and saying all these bad things. I want to be more positive. And I think if we want to save the community, that's a good first step we need to take. We need to relax a little and be a bit more positive. Either way, I do plan on sticking around in the Zombies community. In fact, 2019, I have plans for new content. There's going to be less story content on my channel. Truthfully, story, I feel like, is a dead horse that I've beaten for years. I mean, it's gotten to the point where I can't do Q&As sometimes because I'll ask for questions and I just don't receive any questions that are any good, or I've already answered the question. It's too difficult at this point, and I've also covered a whole lot of the story, and unless there are major breakthroughs, I'm kind of just repeating the same talking points over and over. So there's definitely going to be less story content on my channel. I don't want to be just a story channel. I feel like that's what I've been for the longest time, and I know I've done videos that aren't story, and I've had popular videos that aren't story related. But the bread and butter of my channel has always been story, and I want to move away from that a little. I'm not going to go too much into what this new content will be. You guys will see that in the next coming weeks, but it's not going to be a radical shift, and it's still going to be zombies, but I suspect this will be content that people enjoy. It's kind of tangential to what I'm already doing on my channel. And so I think it's going to be different. It's going to be good for my channel. It's going to breathe new life into it. In 2019, one thing I want to do is consistently upload more often and also just make better content. And hopefully I can do that. I seem to have a hard time both juggling college and YouTube, but I'm hoping in 2019 I can do a better job. And with Black Ops 4, what better reason to do it? Anyway, that's going to wrap things up for this commentary. This has just been a more chill, sit-down video talk to you guys, something I haven't done in a long while. I think I probably haven't done a video like this since, like, Exo Zombies. I don't even know. It's definitely been a while. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Have a wonderful day, and bye.